name is Coll Anderson. I'm a supervising sound editor and a re-recording mixer. I started working in the film business in so long ago that I don't remember. I was a student at Sarah Lawrence College, and I had been working on a documentary film with another student from the Visual and Environmental Studies program at Harvard. And I sort of fell in love with the idea of recording things, of using a Nagra, analog tape, microphones, going out into the world and recording things. The process involved itself into making a bigger thing than what you had, and I fell in love with that. And then when I realized it was married to image, that it wasn't sound as an art on its own like music is, I started working in film sound. I started working on set, documentaries, feature films, TV, and that became my sort of love. I mean, that's what I fell in love with. And I go back to the idea of creativity in film sound, telling story. I go back to my roots of let's go out into the field and record things. And so I love that, but what I really, it's a building block, a foundation of telling stories. And to me, the art of telling stories in movies is what I really do. So am I a supervising sound editor or re-recording mixer? Yeah, by title, that's the credit I get. But what I really do is I help directors finalize and realize a story. And I'm kind of into that. So when we came from the city, that idea of I've been in sort of calibrated stages and working in calibrated spaces in the sort of the sort of Dolby, THX, the sort of theatrical mixing environment to the country, you start to ask yourself, well, what am I going to build in the country that's comparable? How am I going to go back and forth? How am I going to maintain a sort of professional space? So my professionalism, how is that going to happen in the country? And when my wife had found this sort of space, this building kind of existed, and we had been looking at, do we build something from scratch or do we have a building? And so I had some dimensions in mind and a sort of working methodology in mind. And what I liked is studios not where the producer's desk is above you when you're mixing. And I understand the logic of that. I just don't like it. I wanted a space where there was a living room and you mixed in the living room. What I want to do is to grow constantly so that my art grows constantly and never stagnates. And that was where we sort of butted heads with the technology that was in here. And that was when I started to look around for, you know what, there has to be somebody who has looked at this problem and said, we can build a device that can work as a digital to analog converter, because I like an outboard converter away from the Avid, box, and can look at the room and analyze the room and give me a good picture of what's happening and a way to correct it into the sense of what I'm used to, a theatrical curve a theatrical space that I'm used to. This is kind of what it's going to do in a theater. And nowadays we kind of have to do that with TV in mind as well, with multimedia as well. And when I started to say, I want a device that I can, I don't have to have a degree in engineering, I can get my hands into, I can start to change, correct, tune my room to me. Because I don't need to tune my room to somebody else. I need to tune it for me. I started to look at different boxes, and the Trinnov box came on the radar. And when it came on the radar, we kind of said, oh, look, it's a D to A converter. And Matt Snedeker, the effects editor that I work with forever, said, hey, I think it's a replacement for your DMON too, or your X-MON? Isn't the DMON an X-MON? And I was like, no, seriously, I'm going to get rid of 2 boxes at once, because that's kind of my love, is the less boxes that I have, the happier I am. We took everything out of the system and listened to the room just the way it sounded, just completely with nothing. And we were sort of like, okay, that's pretty interesting. Then we shot the room with the Trinnov mic. We sort of let it do its thing. We listened to it. We were all kind of stupefied because we were kind of like, wait a sec, that sounds perfect and we haven't touched anything yet. We were trying to just did it, and it was kind of like, here you go. And we were like, okay, first of all, the speakers are in the wrong place. So we moved our speakers a little bit because it told us a little information that we kind of didn't expect it to be able to tell us. And then we sort of ran things again, and we ran things a couple different times. We played with a lot, and then we sort of said, you know what, let's just put up a movie that I mixed and see what it sounds like. And that was when we were kind of like, oh, yeah, this is way better. We should be doing it. This is the way we should be doing it. The thing that it helped the most with correction in the room, I'd love to be able to crawl into, not just equalization correction, phase correction, time delay. It did all of them, so I didn't have to. The coolest thing was it instantly focused my speakers. It instantly gave me a crystalline phantom center immediately, and it gave me a sense of, oh, if I'm gonna toe out, there's a little correction I have to make with my speakers. One's wrong. Oh, and I could fix it. I could see it immediately and fix it immediately and then reshoot. So it let me do those things, and then it gave me a center channel that worked seamlessly with the left, center, and the right. One of the things that the Trinnov did was made it instant. The first time I ran pink around the room, it was like, oh, wow, that's really good. That's really good. And all of a sudden, panning cars, fall seamlessly through the center channel. There's none of that, like, oh, I'm sitting by the ocean with a seashell on my ear. Car goes across the screen beautifully. That's super nice. And to be able to do it really quickly and not have to think about it, I kind of like that. That's kind of, that keeps me back in doing what I'm doing. That was pretty much the third thing that the Trinnov did, was it gave us a sort of sense of room confidence that we could work with and instantly hear the results of, like, oh, wow, that's totally works. Center channel, filtered pink center channel, subwoofer, filtered pink center channel, subwoofer, that back and forth, seamless. Like, oh, wow, this is working great. And I could see levels wise where I was at and what I was getting. And that was, that's just a super nice, that confidence is a super nice thing to have, and to be able to do it immediately. When you start to examine a device like this that as a mixer we need to integrate with, I need to interface with, I need to use it, I need to touch it. I need it to be simple, because I'm actually working on something else. I'm not working on tuning my room, I'm working on making a movie. So I need a sort of level of simplicity and integration, and the DMON gave us all of that. It did what all my sort of old Avid gear did. Just the X-MON section alone, being able to do that is fascinating. But I don't have to think too hard about my smalls or my surrounds. I had no problem building a 5.1 to stereo matrix in the unit, so that when I hit my smalls, like literally when I go into small speakers, I instantly get a fold down of my 5.1 in stereo. And this is not, I'm not listening to my 5.1, I'm listening to a folded down, and I set the parameters for how I want my fold down to work. It's the same as what I use when I'm mixing, and in no problem at all, I get my sort of, oh, I can hear what my stereo is going to sound like on smalls. No problem. And level correct. And I chose, Do I want to correct the EQ of my small speakers? No, they sound like crap. I need them to sound like, tell me what I got. They sort of tell me what this sort of, these are avant tones, and I kind of love them because if you sound good on these, let me tell you, you sound great. And so they're sort of perfect for that. And the integration with the DMON, being able to use it effectively, quickly, easily, but not have it interfere with what I'm trying to do, tell stories, has made it a welcome piece of equipment. Look at the future of film and TV and movies. We have to really acknowledge, what plays in the house, what plays on the laptop, what plays in the computer, what plays on our phone, what plays in a theater, what plays in the nicer rooms and houses, and learning how to mix not only for all three, but having technology available to us that is the technology that I'm using in here, is the technology that I'm listening to in the cinema, is the technology that I'm listening to at home, and that is the future. That is the sort of Trinnov that I want to be working with all the time. Being able to not just, okay, so great, I got my room back to 0. It's not just that, it's being able to dial in the way I hear, so that what's happening accommodates me. And that is one of the things that makes the box. That's what makes me very happy with the DMON. Being able to, surrounds. Just listen to my surround. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna lower my surround volume 1.5 dB and push it back a little bit so that I compensate naturally when I mix. That's what I can do. And I love that. And then, because I really was like, it can't be, I messed with stuff in the room. Like I went and screwed stuff up on the speakers and ran it again, and it saw everything that I had done. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There was a piece of tissue paper taped in front of one of the tweeters to see if it would fix it. And it did its best. It was kind of like, wow. If not for the analog to digital conversion, if not for the straightforward usability, then for the ability to tailor the sound to what you need to hear to do your job effectively, period. Because that in and of itself is worth, and who are we kidding? When you really get to equipment that lets you do that, when we really are talking about the handful of boxes that let you actually really tune a room well and have control after the fact to tailor it, it's not that expensive. It's actually a very attractive price point. That lends itself to a level of creativity that's just above and beyond where I was 5 years ago. That's worth its weight in gold. That ultimately is the gear that I want. Here you can experiment without being afraid. It's let me on several occasions rethink the way I want to hear stuff, rethink the way I want to mix, experiment with things. We've been able to, we had a speaker go down. It made it instantly easy for us to put new speakers in the wall, reshoot the room, go right back to work. Confidently. That alone was huge. Confidently. I am super happy with the film that I mixed with speakers that I don't listen to all the time. And then when I took them out, put the speakers that I'm used to back in the wall, reshoot the room, I taught myself a couple little tricks with the software, right back to where I was, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I thought I had. Wow. I just can't argue with that. I don't want to say magic, but it's that ability to do that and maintain my confidence allows me to be creative at the level that I want to be.